Hey guys, welcome to the Asian Hustle Network podcast. My name is Brian.
And my name is Maggie.
And we interview Asian entrepreneurs around the world to amplify their voices and empower Asians to pursue their dreams and goals.
We believe that each person has a message and a unique story from their entrepreneurial journey that they can share with all of us. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Asian Hustle Network podcast. Today, we have two special guests with us. They are Paul Tulaphorn and Matthew Tulaphorn. Paul is a Southern California McDonald's owner-operator with 8 locations in Los Angeles County. Paul immigrated to the U.S. from Thailand in 1976, where he began working at McDonald's for $2.10 an hour. In 1978, Paul was promoted to swing manager and became a franchisee in 1994. Paul is married and has 3 children, including his son, Matthew. Matthew is a Southern California McDonald's next generation owner-operator. He began working as a crew member in his father's restaurants at age 12. Matthew graduated from Stanford Law School and became the owner-operator of his first restaurant in 2020. Paul and Matthew, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us, guys. And also thank you for your intro. I did came in the state in 1976, and really the sole purpose of that is to get your educations. And after the third day that I landed in the U.S., I found a job in a local McDonald's, and I have not left since. So that just tell you that how good this company is. So from my end, I still feel that McDonald's is my first and also the best job. You know, as a McDonald's restaurant owners, we are very proud to be the America's best first job. Across our 9 restaurants, we employ over 570 employees and offer them a career education opportunity through McDonald's Archway, to opportunity program, which helps crew members finish high school, earn an associate or a bachelor degree, or even learn English. We also have a great relationship with our crew, knowing that for a fact that without them, we won't be able to go that far. So they are very, very important in our business.
Wow, that's awesome. And Matt, how does it feel to be a part of the McDonald's family and own your first restaurant in 2020?
I mean, it feels good, man. I think a lot to do with where I am now has to do with you loving the job, working at the job that you love, right? You know, like I went to law school. I was a lawyer. You know, like my hours were crazy, man. Like I was working 14, 15 hours a day. I still work 14, 15 hours a day, but I think it's a little different when you work 14, 15 hours in a job that you're passionate about. You know, like we're always hustling, right? So it's nice being in the family. It's hard being in the family business. You know, like I think when I first started, I came back about 3 years ago to work for my dad. And when I first started, you know, like a lot of it was working for him, you know, like listening to what he does. And then eventually it kind of transitions to working with him. Right. And I think that transition, I don't know when it happened exactly, but that transition is really the turning point in our work relationship. And I don't know if a lot of people can have the same experience where you're working with your parent and, you know, like you're trying to find that balance between being a son or a child and being a work partner. I think McDonald's right now is pretty solid. You know, like it's a lot of hard work, but I'm really happy where I am right now.
I love that. I know that your dad mentioned earlier that he has 3 children. Are you guys all a part of the McDonald's family, McDonald's business?
Well, my sister is working for us. She's not an approved operator just yet, but she's working towards that. And my brother, he's about to graduate college and he's moving across the country for work. So he's not part of the business just yet.
For sure.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We'll see where he is in a few years.
Appreciate that. And like, what was opening up your first McDonald's like? What year was that? And what kind of challenges did you face?
I actually start with 3. I did not start with the first one. And it's a big challenge because, you have a limited capital. So you watch your dollar and cents on a daily basis. And we're fortunate. No, we got through. I remember there was one particular month after the payroll and all the debts I have to pay. I actually almost worked that month for free because the M&R that month was so high. It sounds like things break. After one thing, go to the other. But that's only like 1 month. And then after that, I was able to carry the business through until now. So it is, it is a dream job, in my opinion. It takes a lot of hard work and effort. We still have daily challenges, but nothing that really can stop us and can be accomplished, really.
Wow. That's awesome. And it speaks volumes to your greediness too. I know that I was reading up on a survey or something saying that running a franchise is not an easy job. And most people think that buying a franchise means that it's going to be autopilot, things are going to run itself, but that's not usually the case,
Right.
And I think the next question is for Matt, really. It's like, you're running your first McDonald's. Like, what were your impressions coming into your first restaurant, and what do you think of it now? It's like before, it's like, okay, is he going to run himself? Is he going to, if I had to be it's like passive income for me, like what's been your mindset at the time?
No, I think I never thought that the restaurants would run itself. I'm a very hands-on person. I would say that I'm very particular as well when it comes to specific things. It's hard. It's a lot of hard work. You put in a lot of time and effort. You asked my dad what it was like opening his first restaurant. I think he became an operator in '94, so I was like 5 or something, right? And then for those first many years, actually, I remember, I wouldn't see him that often. He would leave early in the morning, come back pretty late, and it wasn't until maybe like mid 2000s when his schedule got a little bit better. And I'll never forget, like how much I didn't see him. And it kind of translates to what I'm doing now, like the amount of time I have to put in every day, like what I need to pick up on. If something breaks or something goes down, for example, like something in the office, right? Like I have to be there to pick up that slack, right? Because there wouldn't be anyone else. Like I have to pick it up and then I have to teach someone how to do it. And it takes time to train someone and to teach them how to do something the correct way until you kind of get that cycle back in. And then, and it's like that for my first restaurant too. When we purchased the restaurant, a lot of culture change from how the restaurant was running previously. A lot of the employees that we hired from the old operator, like they were very shocked with everything that we're doing. They were shocked at like how much they saw me in the restaurants. There were a lot of broken equipment, just like my dad had said, right? And, like even today we're still trying to fix things, like we just got a text that, like one of the panels in the walk-in fridge is like coming off. So it's probably not holding its temperature, which, we need to get it fixed right away. It's pretty expensive. So, things happen every day. Things are always changing and new things come up that make the job exciting, and it never gets boring for me. And I think with opening the new restaurant, there's a lot that goes into owning your first restaurant. Like there's a lot of paperwork, a lot of different things you have to sign, different things you have to do, like get approved for this and that before you officially like take over.
Yeah. So you mentioned that, you started working as a crew member at age 12 and then you actually was studying law for a little bit. So a lot of people in Asian Hustle Network, a lot of their parents had really kind of push them to be like a lawyer or an accountant or a doctor. And so those are like the conventional paths of success, right? And so I want to know, like, when did you decide, okay, I'm going to actually focus, more attention to, help out my dad and work in McDonald's. And what did Paul think about that? What did your father think about that as well?
I think about you just making a change from law to McDonald's. Was it a catalyst as well?
Well, first of all, I think the only difference between what you said, Maggie, and from like what happened with us is that my dad didn't force me to become a lawyer, right? Like it was my own decision. I started working at 12 just because he would just bring me in for like the few hours that he would go to work, and then we would leave. So I had a little bit of experience back then. And then I worked through high school and college. And then I decided to become a lawyer because I wanted to have my own career versus kind of stepping into what my dad's legacy was. Right. And then, and I remember the day that I called him, I think it was, I want to say February. Right. And then I came back in February 2017. So I called him. I told him, I said, Dad, like I feel like I've worked on my own, like made my own income, like lived the life that I kind of wanted on my own, and I want to come back and work for you and work for the company, and make my own legacy from the family business. Right. And then I don't remember I remember that's what I told him, but I don't remember how the conversation went exactly. But he, I remember when I called him, when I was about to call him, I was nervous, right? I was scared. I was worried about like disappointment, right? Like, oh man, I went through school, like I have my own career. Like, what if my dad is like, what are you doing? Like, why are you gonna, quit this job that you have? Like you went to school, you did all this, but he was very accepting. He said, yeah, like you should come back and, like, we'll get you started. And then I came back a few months later and then we started working and here I am.
I love that.
Awesome.
I'm a firm believer that everybody should follow their dreams. In order to be successful, you have to be passionate and certainly feel that this is what you like to do. So I actually told all my kids that, whatever you want to do, I support it. Dad's company will only serve as a high wire act, and the company is the net underneath that. Don't worry, if you fall, I will catch you. The day you change your mind, you're welcome with an open arm. So the statement still holds true today with the youngest one, and he's going to start working with Capital One starting July in Virginia. So I wish him all the success, and same thing, if 2 or 3 years from now, if he decides to come back, he's welcome.
Yeah, I love that. And I love having this podcast with father and son as well. Never had this before.
This is the first time.
Oh, really?
So, we had a new perspective of the conventional past success to unconventional to McDonald's, family business. So it's really, really unique.
I just wanted to point out also that what you said, Paul, about, if there's any time that you need me to catch you, like I'm right here. That is so rare in a, father and child relationship.
Exactly what opposite of my dad told me. He's like, you fall, you fall.
Yeah.
And it goes such a long way, and it contributes to the children's success so much further. So, I really commend you and look up to your relationship between the two of you.
Yeah. So I do want to switch the topic back to McDonald's a bit more and understand like what involves building a franchise, right? Because like a lot of us here in Asian Hustle Network are always curious about these type of things. We don't know how to get started, what to get started. So can you kind of walk us through like step one? Like how do you identify a location, franchise? What is that licensing fee and all these things? Like walk us through the entire process, because we're here to learn. We're here to support you guys even more.
Well, for me, I am an insider. I work for the company for a number of years. So when I got out, it just happened that one of the franchisee decided to retire. So there was an opportunity right there. And then my boss actually asking me, would I be interested in taking over? Obviously, the answer is yes, and so the rest of the history. I mean, I took over since July 1, 1994. But from the company standpoint, we literally, when we start taking a prospect of a licensing process, there's a number of applications that coming in throughout the year. We're talking about US-wide. I will not be surprised of probably about 10, 20,000. And obviously it's very, very selective. We look at the history of the individuals and how passionate they are, and also the community services that they have provided to wherever they live. And then financial, there's another piece. And that's why McDonald licensees today, we have operators from different walks of life, whether it be doctor, nurse, policeman, principal in high school, firemen, airline hostess, you name it, we got them all. It is this different walks of life that come together. So when anything that we need to do with our system, we form committees. So these operators actually represent a certain field. They are so-called the expert. And that's how company is able to strengthen by seeking out, their feedback on their view, along with some of the data we have researched. So the training process, once you get accepted through interview, the training process normally will take about 2 years. And it's actually a give opportunity for the company to look at you as an individual. And you also look at the company, whether this is the right company that you want to be franchisee. Right after 2 years, you still need to go through approval process, and once they say, okay, you're approved now, it is really the company side. Look at the location, because we do have a real estate department constantly looking for locations that make sense, because it's a big investment. Once we sign a contract, whether it be purchase side or lease, it's gonna last forever. With McDonald's sign a contract, at least gonna be 60, 80 years. Okay. So once the company located a location, they'll offer to this individual that, hey, would you be interested in this particular location? Obviously, they have projections, the financial, what's your sale, what's your expense gonna be, blah, 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 blah. Also opportunity to grow. And believe it or not, many applicants, when they talk about location, they always want, obviously, LA, San Diego, and Hawaii. These are the top 3 locations. Company know that. Pretty much they were told this applicant, if you are seeking out these 3, it's nothing available because it's a long line waiting. So, but that will be the process. Matthew's a different, we call second generation. So he actually worked for, me and for at least, including high school, I would say at least 6-7 years. So it's a long process to make sure that, the company has to make sure that these are the licensee they aim at and they fit McDonald. I guess when you open a McDonald dictionary, you're looking for licensee. Wow, I can see Matthew's face in there. So it's a lot of requirement. It is a lot of requirement. I mean, they like verification and checks, so.
Yeah, I want to say it's really funny because I get that question a lot, right? Like, how do you become a McDonald's franchisee, right? So like he said, like my program is different than, say, if you, Brian, or Maggie, you went to go apply to become a franchisee, right? Like your program is a lot different than mine. Yours will take 12 to 18 months in training, then you go through the approval process. they kind of look at your background, what you do, right? But for us, for me and the other next gens, like they really come hard on you, right? Because they want to make sure that you can do it, right? That you're not just coming in because you're entitled to the business. You're not coming in because, you know, like your parent says, oh, you can do anything you want and I'm going to give you this business, right? They really, really came down hard on me. Like my training was very strict, very rigorous. You know, they checked me once a month, making sure that, you know, all my numbers are good, making sure that operationally, like I have all the knowledge that I need, right? And then, you know, like McDonald's corporate, they'll call me, you know, like then I have to go and, you know, interview with like 3 different people, and then I have to go interview with other people. You know, it's like this whole process that is very, very strict, especially for next gens, because I think, I'm not sure, but I think, you know, like there was a few generations back where they didn't have a program like this and they kind of just passed it on, and then things kind of went, you know, like off the charts because they didn't really have a set training program. So then they really had to enforce it. You know, like if you have a child that's a next gen, like we need to make sure that, you know, like they can do it without you, basically. And then for the registered applicants, you know, what they call registered applicants, you know, like they train you, you go through the training, you get approved, right? And then now you have to wait for restaurants. I think that's the biggest difference is that, you know, like once I get approved, you know, like we have restaurants in our family already, but if you get approved, you need to wait for your restaurants. And I know an operator here in LA who got approved, actually had to wait 7 or 8 years just to get restaurants here in LA. And it wasn't even LA proper. Like it's like north, like way past up in like the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so interesting to hear, you know, just learn more about the McDonald's process. I think at one point my dad also mentioned to me is that you should look into franchising one day, you know, and it's great hearing more about that right now. So the other question, I know earlier you mentioned culture change when a McDonald's franchise. Can you kind of highlight that and what that means, and how would you hypothetically walk in and sort of update and upgrade the culture of the franchise, and what makes a bad culture and what makes a good culture?
Yeah.
I don't think there is good or bad culture. I think, you know, every operator has their own way of running their business, right? McDonald's, they don't tell you how to run the business. They give you resources and training and tools to help you do a better job at running your restaurant. But I think every operator has their own style, right? So if you purchase from another operator, whatever culture they have is the way that operator operates the restaurant, right? So once you purchase it, you want to try to change it so it matches what you're doing and it matches what the rest of your restaurants are doing. Because at the end of the day, my main goal for our organization is to make sure every restaurant is the same. It's running the same. Because if you know, restaurant 3 needs employees from restaurant 1, right? They can just go and they can work and everything will be the same, right? So when I purchase the restaurant, if I move employees from that restaurant to one of my other restaurants, they would just be very confused. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, why is it so different here? Like, how do I do this? How do I do that? You know, where are things located? Who am I supposed to ask, right? So in order to change that, right, you got to change the culture, the way that they think, the way that they do things, and try to get them in line with everything else.
Mm.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, because I thought, you know, there would be a culture that McDonald's tries to like force you to implement into your workplace, but you know.
Yeah, no, they give you suggestions, right? We try to do things, you know, like the way that they suggest, because, you know, like McDonald's is McDonald's, right? Everybody knows McDonald's, right? And they haven't gotten this far by not doing anything, right? So when they give you tips and tricks and resources and tools, you know, like for us as an organization, at least, we take all that information and try to implement it, right? Because, you know, like they wouldn't send it to us if they didn't know it works, right? So why would you try to change something that you know that's going to work, basically?
Absolutely. And it's crazy because I remember a while back I read the book McDonald's by Ray Kroc.
Yeah.
The importance of systemizing and building processes for your organization so that each McDonald's is basically identical. And that process itself, although very simplistic, is very difficult to mimic, especially in different states and different locations, you know, because the quality of food has to taste the same. It has to taste the same here in California, New York, Texas, Seattle, wherever, right?
Right.
That process is extremely hard.
Right.
Now that we're running a company too, Asian Hustle Network, it's like we want our posts this way, we want our podcast this way.
Yeah.
You can't assume, you know, you have to always be very attention to detail and very straightforward with what you want. So hats off to you guys for, what is it, owning 8 McDonald's right now or 9? That's pretty remarkable for what you're doing. So commend you for that.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you.
With 8 different locations, you know, I think like for anyone, for example, for me and Brian, that would be extremely, you know, daunting to handle and manage 8 different locations. So how do you like decide and, you know, how to, you know, when to go to each location and check up on those locations? And how do you manage those 8 locations?
And are you like a micromanager type where it's like you can't it's out of place?
I'm a little bit of a micromanager. You know, the way that I decide to go is basically on a schedule. You know, sometimes I schedule myself, sometimes I just show up unannounced, right? Because sometimes when I schedule myself and then people see my schedule, like they're prepared for me to come, right? Like they're like, oh, Matthew's going to be at the store tomorrow. You know, like we got to get everything ready. Like we need to make sure everything's great for his appearance, right? But then sometimes I show up and then things are still the same. And then I tell them like, you know, like you guys don't have to be scared that I'm coming because you guys got it, right? Like, you guys are doing great, you know, but there are times where I go and things aren't the way that I want them to be, right? Things aren't at the standard that we set in our organization. Then I say something, you know, then I'm like, hey, like what's going on, right? But I try to visit 1 or 2 stores max per day, right? Because I'm a firm believer of, you know, like if I try to visit all 9 restaurants in one day, nothing's going to get done, right? Like I'm just splitting my time like too much, right? So I will go to 1 restaurant and then possibly a second one if I have time. If not, then I'll just, you know, save it for another day.
Yeah. And I think the next question that I want to ask both of you guys actually, do you guys have any funny / war stories of managing McDonald's yet? Something that you're just like, whoa, I didn't expect that to happen.
I mean, I'm sure my dad has a bunch, but for me, people, you know, there's always issue. Like, I think people is the biggest thing about our business, right? I mean, we have 570 plus employees, right? So there's always something going on, right? Like 20 people call off or something, you know, like it's just like, I'm just trying to like figure out what's happening, you know, like some managers are, you know, like getting into an argument with another manager and then we have to kind of figure that out, you know, like this person is, you know, threatening to quit and, you know, it's just like a bunch of different things happen.
Yeah.
I used to tell my staff all the time that being associated with McDonald's over 40 years, you know, even my previous life, I worked for the company as a director. On a daily basis, you have your staff coming in and, you know, either complaining, tell you different story. I always say that, look, all the story, so far I heard them all. Only 2 things different: names and face. That's the only 2 things changed. But the story, I heard them all throughout 40 years. It just repeated after repeated. But it depends on who says it.
Yeah, what kind of stories have you heard the most?
I mean, it in times right now it's about calling off, you know, they might be taking advantage of the pandemic, you know, and and you try to follow up with OSHA rules and regulations. And you do have a very smart staff. Sometimes they try to take advantage of the system, you know, but it's also make you smarter. You know, I mean, it's all the 575 employees, you know what, it's you're going to have some, you know, I mean, that's just nature of our business. But I think both Matthew and I, we every day we get up, we enjoy with the challenge, and we look at the sun all the time. You can have a lousy day, right? Tomorrow the sun rise again, So we don't give up.
I think what it is also is that not a lot of people understand what a franchise is, right? Like they want to take advantage of McDonald's, right? They're like, oh, like McDonald's, like we're gonna get millions of dollars from you, right? But like in reality, we're like a small business. We're small business owners, right? So like that's not gonna happen. We can't have that happen because it's not. Yeah. We're not McDonald's corporate, or we're not some big name thing going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious, do you guys ever actually make the food yourselves? I ask this because Brian and I know another franchisee owner, and he tells us that sometimes he just has to do the nitty-gritty stuff, like make the food. And I really look up to that because he says, if you can't even do like the smaller stuff, how are you going to run the whole, the whole restaurant, right? So sometimes you have to like go in, like, for example, if an employee, calls out sick, like maybe sometimes you do have to go in and make the food. So I think for anyone who doesn't own a franchisee, they might think that as an owner operator, you just have to manage on the high level, but you don't have to actually make the food. So I'm curious to know, like, do you guys ever have to actually make the food yourselves?
Well, McDonald's has a very, very high standard. Everything we do, it has steps, procedures, it's already in place. And we not only have to make food ourselves, but we also have to taste it because we call it as a gold standard. Yeah. That's why the franchisor require franchisee. It doesn't matter where you go, whether in Southern California, Alaska, New England, Big Mac is a Big Mac. Mm-hmm. Crispy chicken is a crispy chicken. And we have to be consistent that way. Because our primary goal from the McDonald's standpoint is consumer-led, right. Okay, consumer-centric. And in order for us to be successful, we have to listen to the customer. Quite often I preach to my staff, when we have customer complain, that is a gift to us. They are telling us what's wrong, what can we improve, because they want to come back. You'll be foolish not to listen to them, and I think it has been a secret sauce for all of us, and you see the McDonald's are open day in and day out, different locations. And, even now you travel, you probably see cars wrap around the drive-through, because we just recently launched the crispy chickens, and in my opinion, it's very, very good. It's comparable to Chick-fil-A. Mm-hmm. So, except a little bit cheaper.
Was your question also in terms of like personally, like do I personally go in and like cook and make my own food, make the food?
Yeah, I mean, just I guess in my perspective, like, what is your perspective on just doing the nitty gritty stuff? Because as like,
I love doing that. Yeah, I love doing that. And also just to kind of go off of what my dad said. One thing that my dad taught me from the very beginning, like when I came back 3 years ago, right, is that a good leader is likable and is credible, right? So I believe that, I can't be telling my employees how to do X, Y, and Z if I can't do X, Y, and Z, right? Like I can't tell an employee, okay, like you need to go, put together a Big Mac when I don't know how to put together a Big Mac, right? So if I need to go in, if I'm at a restaurant and they're really busy and I need to step in and do something, I will do it, right? Like I'll jump on the grills. I'll throw meat patties on the grill, right? I'll put sandwiches together if I have to, like I'll cook fries. I'll put food together. Like it's just, you do what you have to do to keep the business running, right? Like if they need help, then they need help, right? You just go in and help them. Like I have no issues with that whatsoever. Like if the restrooms are dirty, right, and it needs to be swept and mopped, like I'll grab a broom, I'll grab a mop, and I'll start doing it. If the floors are dirty, I'll start mopping it. And then employees will see me and then they'll be like, "Oh, Matthew, like it's okay." I'm like, no, it's fine. Like if you're doing something, go do it. I'll finish this. Like if you finish what you're doing and I'm still doing this, then you can come help me. But like go do what you need to do first and then come back here.
Yeah, love that. Those are characters.
We all grew up in the system, and even today, I'll still be able to visit a restaurant and running a fry station and still be able to keep up with the volume, and there are days that we're going early, there are times I'm pouring coffee for the customer or even mop the floor. That doesn't really bother me. I give you a chance to interact with the customer and ask how their day, and what can we do? I mean, we have a lot of loyal customers, in our restaurants.
Definitely. I really like the fact that you guys are emphasizing how important the customer is. Mm-hmm. Whether this be McDonald's or any other business that you're running, you always have to listen to your customers and what they have to say because, sometimes the answers are right there. And if we refuse to listen to them, we would definitely fail. And also does remind me of our high school days, Matt. We both wrestling together. I had own a bunch of McDonald's. But every wrestling tournament after weigh-ins, we always eat McDonald's.
That's right. Let's go run like 5 miles and get our weight down and just sweat everything out. Don't drink any water. Go weigh in and then let's go eat junk food now.
We made it.
We made it by 0.1.
Hey, once you guys got through your questions, and if you don't mind, I would like to give a few plugs to McDonald's at the company that, I think this is probably the greatest licensees company in the entire world, in my opinion.
Yeah, of course.
So, you want me to go ahead and plug it in now? Or?
Sure, plug it in.
So, the community support, I can tell you that last April, at the beginning of the pandemic, our restaurant were among the hundreds of franchise McDonald's locations across SoCal that offer free breakfast to the first responders who were on the front lines. Since then, SoCal McDonald restaurant have offered free food to the first responder 2 more times. And then through last year's Thank You Meal, you probably heard about that. And this year, Thank You Thursday. So in total, we actually gave away more than 88,000 coffees and 94,000 egg muffins and 288 thank you meals. 288,000 happy meal, thank you meal, and the 10,000 Thursday meals. And as far as the Ronald McDonald House and SoCal McDonald's owners obviously play an important role. They help raise money for the charity through in-restaurant fundraisers such as Walk for Kids. You guys might have seen that. Happy Meal donation, and then Roundup. So we also participate and encourage employees to take part in volunteering opportunity, and are even involved in the establishment of each house and program. As far as the impact, I think McDonald's, our purpose is to feed and foster community by serving our customer, crew, farmers, franchisee, and supply. Personally, I recently just donate 3,000 booklets to the SoCal Thai community. The booklets are basically addressing hate crime, what it's all about, and also encourage individuals to file a claim if they've been abused, whether physically or verbally. We stress how important it is. And, again, we McDonald also stand against the Asian hate. An attack on our Asian American community is an attack on all of us, and they're not going away soon. And these people that attack, they're our customer, our crew, our employee, our franchisee, and the steady rise of incident of hate across our country is senseless and wrong. Mm-hmm. And all forms of racism, xenophobia, and discrimination are wrong also. McDonald pledges to commit a shift charitable donation to stop AAP I Hate, and along with the Asian Pacific American. So I think that McDonald will continue to support and advocates and support the victim of hate and bystander intervention program. As McDonald, we obviously does not tolerate inequity, injustice, and racism. So that's a plug for me.
Thank you for that. I mean, it's also good to hear that McDonald's does stand against the rising Asian crime. Obviously a lot of things have been happening to our community, and we need all the support you can right now, especially from largest corporations to support and amplify and stop this sense of violence. Yeah, in my opinion.
I just wanted to thank you, Paul and Matthew, for speaking up. It takes a lot of courage to speak up, and with the platform of McDonald's, I have a lot of respect for the both of you and McDonald's to be speaking on this topic and really pushing for change.
Yeah. Right.
So we have one last question for you too, and that is, if you could give one advice to an aspiring entrepreneur, what would it be?
We'll start with Matt and then we'll do Paul.
We'll start with me. I said it earlier, I think you just gotta do what you love, you can't, if you don't love what you do, I don't think, success will come for you, right? Kind of like you, Brian, right? We talked a few months ago about, what you were doing before and then what you're doing now, right? And, just seeing, the Asian Hustle Network and how passionate you and Maggie are about this, it's blown up so much. And, when you told me about the time that you went to the panel and, you saw a bunch of people and you're like, oh, why aren't there any Asian people in here, right? And then you decided to start Asian Hustle Network and look at what it's become, right? And you're very passionate about it, and it's grown and it's growing and growing and growing, right? It's grown so much that we had a call yesterday, and this older McDonald's person who works at a different company, he knows about the Asian Hustle Network, right? And I was just like, wow, this is crazy. McDonald's PR knows about it. It's just this whole thing that's blown up, and it's just, I see, how much you love it, and I think you enjoy it a lot, and my advice, for aspiring entrepreneurs is that, you just need to find that one thing that you really love, and you got to commit to it. And then once you commit to it, I think your life will be great. Whether it's successful or not, I think success just comes from being happy with what you're doing.
Absolutely. That's sound advice, Matt. Appreciate that. Appreciate the kind words, dude.
Yeah.
Makes me feel warm inside. What about you, Paul? Any advice for aspiring?
Well, along the way, what Matthew said, I mentioned earlier, you have to follow your dream, right? Once your vision, you have to have passion. Nothing will come easy. You will face with many obstacles and barriers, but you got to think about each obstacle or barrier that you will overcome. Then you're a step closer. You have to think about that, and seek out assistance. You need help. Don't get frustrated. You have friends, you have family care about you, friends care about you. More importantly, nowadays it's all about Google, right? Anytime you have a question, you can type into Google, you get a lot of answers from that. So, start slow, don't go too fast, and start small, don't go too big, because you can get some learning from that. I was recommended to one of my friends who started a business that you got to make sure you have enough capital to cover for the first 6 months. Mm-hmm. It might not go well. You don't want to be fall, after the 30 days. Just make sure you have enough for 6 months, and hopefully you'll be able to carry it through. So.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I do agree with that statement. Yeah. So Matt, how can our listeners find out more about you and reach out to you guys?
They know you. I don't know. What are some ways that they do? I mean, like I'm in the Facebook group. You know, I've been using a lot of resources from the Facebook group, so it's pretty good. So I'm on the Facebook group. I mean, I guess you can reach out to me on Instagram with my, like 100 followers.
Yeah, we'll include that in the show notes as well.
Awesome.
We do thank you guys for being on the podcast today, and appreciate all the stories and lessons learned that you guys shared.
Awesome.
All right.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Keep in touch, Brian.
All right, guys. Take care. Have a good
Thanks, man.
evening.
Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Please subscribe to the show.
We would like to get to the top 10 on iTunes, so be sure to leave us a 5-star review. We release an episode every single Wednesday, so stay tuned.
Thank you guys so much.